The space race is one of my favorite times in history. We were so determined to go to the moon. And it was partly out of spite, which I can respect. Spite's good. But it was mostly about national security. The Russians beat us with Sputnik, so they got the first satellite in space. Then they sent up a poor dog. R.I.P. baby. And then Yuri Gagarin beat all men into space. They had a 3-for-3 thing going on there, and we were struggling to get off the ground. Like, literally, you can watch videos of our rockets collapsing. But we had hedged our team with some great scientific minds, some of which were obtained under questionable pretenses. And by that, I mean we had stolen some German scientists. And not just any German scientists, ones that had been working for the Third Reich. So let's take a dive into NASA and Operation Paperclip on today's History Talk. First off, I highly, highly recommend this book, Operation Paperclip. But the space race actually starts at the end of World War II and into the beginning of the Cold War. We were already in a battle with them, mainly because they really, really, really liked those bombs we dropped on Japan. They managed to get their hands on the plans from the Manhattan Project. Man, that would also be a good history talk. Ugh. Not enough time. So now they had their own weapons. That made everybody nervous. Knowing what was at stake, and knowing that the space race was the next great frontier into who controlled the atmosphere, Americans began wondering where they could find some of the greatest minds to put to use at NASA. Strangely, they found that in a toilet. I am not kidding. In a toilet, recovered from Bonn University, was something called the Ausenberg List. I'm talking literally in a toilet. But okay. It was a catalog of scientists who had been put to work for the Third Reich. And now the plan has been set in motion. With a list of Nazi scientists at hand, the US government decided to start recruiting. This operation was initially called Operation Overcast, but was eventually changed to Operation Paperclip, what we know today. They had the name of about 1,600 scientists. And the idea was that they would offer them to not be punished for working with the Nazis, and instead would bring them over with their families to work in the United States. President Harry Truman had a small issue with this. He wanted to make sure that they knew not to bring anyone who was actively affiliated with the Third Reich politically, because there were a lot of Germans who weren't actually part of the Third Reich. Unfortunately for Truman, that eliminated a lot of scientists. So the Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency and the predecessor to the CIA, the OSS, decided to ignore that, basically. So when they found a German scientist with a questionable background, that stuff just conveniently disappeared. One of the things we have to do as Americans, and as historians, whether professional or just casual like me, we have to be able to honestly look at our past and reassess what can be done differently, and come to grips with the fact that not everything is rose-colored glasses. Like this man. This is Wernher von Braun. Wernher von Braun. Good God, woman, get it together. Von Braun was one of the faces of NASA. This man was so well known for his contributions to NASA that he ended up in a 1955 television special produced by Walt Disney.
Dr. Wernher von Braun, who is at present the chief of the Guided Missile Division of the Army's Rocket Center.
This man was the public face of NASA for a while, and he sure knew rockets. The thing is, working for the Third Reich, his rockets have killed a lot of Allied soldiers and civilians. Historians have grappled with this for decades on how to remember this man. Was he a criminal? Now let's be clear, I'm not singling out Wernher von Braun as the main focus of all the questions of Operation Paperclip. He's just the most notorious. And while his contributions are thought to have really directly helped us get to the moon, conspiracy theorists, not now, I can hear you typing, please, not now, okay? Go to Reddit. He'd also rained destruction on the Allies. See, he was a bit of a prodigy, and he developed something called the V-2 rocket. It was often called in Nazi propaganda the Vengeance Weapon 2. Very dramatic name for something that wreaked a lot of hell on London. I read about these missiles once in a book I can't remember, where they were talking about Blitzkrieg, the lightning warfare that came down on London almost daily. They were so fast that if you were in its path, you would not hear it coming. That's why some comfort that was given to people who were scared of the rockets were that if you could hear it, you were okay. That's part of his legacy, in addition to NASA. So there's a lot of questions that we as Americans have to think about here. Truman said he did not want anybody who was affiliated with the Third Reich on his staff. The problem was they needed those people. And while other people who were affiliated with Hitler were eventually executed or imprisoned, these men were given new lives because we wanted to beat the Russians. So it becomes this area not of black and white, but shades of gray of, did we do the right thing here? Because we so badly wanted to control space. That is not a question that I can answer. And the Soviet Union actually did the same thing. It was a race to see who could get which scientist. Although much like a lot with the Soviet Union, mostly we just had to wait for the USSR to shoot themselves in the foot. Because if you recall, they were kicking our asses in the first part of the space race. But our favorite despot, Stalin, literally went through a period where he was executing scientists who were not working quickly enough. I have loved space since I was a little girl. Hilarious because I'm terrified of flying, but let's move on. I went to Space Academy as a teen, and that is different than space camp. Thank you very much. And as somebody who loves history, I understand the complexity, but here's the thing. History is complicated. That's me at 14. Do I look the same? Let me pull maybe, I don't know. And this gentleman right here is Dr. Georg von Teisenhausen. He was not part of the initial Operation Paperclip, but he was recruited by von Braun because they worked together during World War II. He actually came to speak at a science event that I went to. Yes, I was a freaking nerd even in middle school and high school. Guys, come on. And he talked about his time in Germany working for the Nazis during World War II. He was very open about it. And he also encouraged me to go to space camp in Huntsville, where he taught. I don't know what to say because I don't have an answer for this one. He seemed nice, but I didn't know the extent of what these men did. I don't have any good answers.